All right. So I have I just came back from a shoot that I'm editing right now. It was a multi-camera shoot. So we have two cameras for the interviews, and I noticed that we made a pretty significant mistake. And so this is the main camera shot, and then we have the second camera um, that you can see here. And when our audio guy readjusted the microphone, I did not notice that it got into the frame of the second camera. And I have no excuse. I can tell you um, I was busy and it was hectic or whatever. But the reality is, I should have seen it and I didn't see it. And so um, I'm editing it as a multi-camera on a multi-camera timeline, and so we have both cameras on the same sequence, and then that's embedded into our main timeline, so that if I right-click, um, then I can pick. Sorry, my screen is different because of the stream. Then I can pick multi-camera and choose which camera I want to see, and that just makes it easier to edit multi-camera stream or timeline. So I'm just going to use generative AI in Photoshop. And basically, all I need to do is take a screen capture of this shot from, I shot everything in 4K, and then I'm editing in 1080p. So I guess one solution would be in the main timeline, in the 1080p timeline, and get rid of the microphone. And that, it just limits my framing ability versus can I keep it as a wide shot. And so we want to go back to the multi-camera sequence, and that's in 4K. And that's the one that I want to export. Let me turn my cursor. Let me turn my cursor so you guys can see it better. I think I have it somewhere. There it is. Here we go. So here's the mic. So again, I'm going to export a still frame from the 4K timeline as a JPEG is fine. And so we're just going to call this interview 2. This is the second interview, 4K. JPEG is fine. I don't need to import it into the project. And now we can go and find that. Up. And there it is right here. And we're just going to open that in Photoshop. Here. And we just need to unlock the layer. And now I'm just going to get rid of it. Hello. That's fun. All right, let me turn this off. I don't know what's happening. Oh, there it is. Give me 1 second. We have a pop-up. There it is. Okay. All right. So now I can select the microphone. I typically go a little wider when I do generative AI, just to give AI enough information on what I'm trying to, on the background. So there's a couple ways to do this. You can just push generative AI here. I typically like to get rid of the microphone first, just so that there's no influence into what I'm asking Photoshop to regen, and then reselect something a little wider so there's enough information on the edges, and then we can just do a generative fill. I don't need to describe anything. We'll let that do its thing. And then Photoshop will give you 3 different variation. Okay. So now we can look at the different variations. So this one we can see has a little bit of interesting shadows here. That's a little better. I'm not a huge fan of those three, so I can regen again. It'll give me three more options. Let's see. That's better. The shadow is more consistent. No, that one is not too bad, except I'm losing that line here that I like. Let's try one more time. Nope. I think this is my favorite one, so we'll use that. While I'm here, I'm going to take care of this little ping here that comes from one of the overhead light, just because I feel like it's a little distracting. So I'm just going to go back to this layer, and then we can do the same thing. This one, let's try to not delete it, and we'll just generate over it. And move this out of the way. This one is clean line. So that's that. And so now if we look at the layers, we're left with two little elements. And all we need to do now is export that as a JPEG. I mean, as a PNG, just so we have the transparency. So PNG, we're in 4K. I'm going to say save. We're going to name it fixed. And now we can go back to Premiere. And here's our fixed file. All right, so now if I bring this fixed PNG and layer it on top of those two shots in my multi-camera sequence, it works. It gets rid of the issue. The problem is if I go to my main timeline, it will actually see it as a third camera. So if we go to multi-camera, it sees it as a third camera, and we don't want that. And so let's go back to the multi-camera timeline. So instead of adding it here, what we're going to do is we're going to turn this camera into a sequence. So that's the one we need to fix. And so it's this one here. And by the way, that's my workflow is I rather fix that after color grading versus before, but I've never done it the other way, and I'm sure it would work to just remove that in the log file, do the same process in the log file, and then go through your color grading and apply the same color grading to the PNG file. But for me, I just don't feel great about, I don't know how the grade applies to the PNG, like how the PNG responds, if it responds the same way. So for me, I rather export the PNG or the background with the microphone after the color grade and use that as my reference to then create the PNG file. And that way it's all color match. Now, obviously the issue is if I tweak my color grade at some point, then I either need to re-go through the process or try to apply the tweak to the PNG file to see if we can match it. But for me, this has worked pretty well. So anyway, so now that we're here, let's take this colored layer and we're going to create a sequence from the clip. And in here, we can now add the PNG and layer it on top of the entire clip. And now we're good. Now, obviously, this only works if he stays where he is. Like if he raises his hand or if he stands up and puts his head somewhere in here, we're in trouble. Now this person that was walking up the stairs, I have no idea what that looks like either. But I'm not too concerned about that because I think it happens once and here they come. And we kind of, so see they kind of disappeared. But I'm not concerned about that. Those are not, I'm not going to take those shots where people are walking in the stairs here. But obviously you couldn't do this. You couldn't fix it using this method if it was in an area where his hand would be moving or something was moving there. So anyway, now we have our fixed layer on top and we can go back to our multi-camera. And what we're going to do, so let me get rid of this PNG. We don't need it here. And all I need to do now is replace this one with the new colored one. And we're going to open this in the source monitor. And I can just grab, I don't need the audio. We're going to line it up. We're going to get rid of this one. I'm going to bring this one down so that it's on camera 2. And then I need to get rid of this extra layer so that it doesn't see a third camera. And so now let's make sure everything is synced. Yep, we're good. And then if I go to the main embedded timeline, so now it's here, and now I can switch between my cameras. I only have 2 camera, and I can switch between camera 1 and camera 2. Good. And now it's like that everywhere. Everything it's fixed everywhere. There you go. This is the first time I actually use this to fix an issue like that. Fortunately, I don't have those kind of issues often. So this is interesting here because now we see an issue. So what happened here? Let me go back to this so we can look at it here. So the problem is there is a big giant window or like a door. This is the lobby upstairs. And so we can see now there's a change in exposure, like in the amount of light coming through the lobby. And so wherever we did our reference, then the lighting change. Yeah. See that here? So now those 2 spots are more visible. So what I need to do is edit my piece on my main timeline. And so this is my main timeline. So this is 2 interviews. Once I find the sound bites that I actually want to use, then I can redo that process for that specific sound bites so that those 2 patches will blend in a lot more, because this is not okay. So I think that's what needs to happen. I'll just edit the piece and then figure out which sound bites I want to use and then create the patch. And that way it will match a lot better. You could kind of play with, with the coloring here, but then you're just kind of eyeballing it. And I just don't think that would be like I can play with this way, but it will change again. Like here, see how it's becoming lighter again here. It's better. So anyway, hopefully that was helpful. I think I'll go and finish the editing first and then repatched it, and I can show you afterwards what that looks like. This is the first time I use it to fix an issue like that. The way I've used this before, which I thought was interesting, was to use the same technique to then generate either a more interesting background, especially when you shoot something pretty wide, you could tell Photoshop to grab all around that person and then generate a background that's different than the environment that you shot it in, and see what you get. And that was kind of fun. Like I just did that for fun. Somebody sent me a video on YouTube, and I saw somebody using it that way, and I thought it was pretty interesting to create some interesting environment. Like if you're just shooting this in a boring conference room, you can generate around the person and see what that looks like. But this fixing thing to me is such a um, is super valuable. Like it's so good to be able to then have the flexibility of keeping the white shot and not have to necessarily push in. I might, just because I feel like he's a little too centered anyway. But now at least I have the option of staying a little wider if I want to. So hopefully that was helpful to you guys. And let me know in the comment if there's any thoughts, question, or if you would have done it differently. But yeah, I'll talk to you soon.